Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the IntelleXual Podcast. I'm your host, David S. Dawson. It has been a very long time since we've podcasted. I apologize for the nearly year-long hiatus, but at the end of pandemic, I think everybody understood I needed a bit of a break and a chance to kind of recharge and settle in a little bit and figure out exactly what I want to do with the podcast. I still haven't figured that out. However, this summer, the film that I was working on right before all the lockdowns began, Kung Fu Ghost, has been released in the US and Canada. It's currently available on all sorts of video on demand platforms, and I believe is coming out on DVD this coming Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that if you haven't already caught it on the streaming services. Today, I'm going to chat with one of my co-stars, Mr. Rene Fernandez, and get a little bit of history on my co-star and a little behind-the-scenes chat about the making of Kung Fu Ghost. Hey, Rene, how you doing?
Hi.
So before we get into talking about Kung Fu Ghost a little bit, you've got one of the larger acting pedigrees of our cast. Do you want to give us a little background on your history as an actor?
No.
Yeah. You're either very petulant or very humble. I can't decide which, sir.
We'll make that choice later. I've been doing this since, 1987. I started out in one of the first California lottery commercials.
Oh, right.
As an actor, and then moved on to bigger and better things. General Hospital, Santa Barbara, 3 CBS movies of the week. We're working with such stars as Dennis Farina, Elizabeth Montgomery, the cast of Silk Stockings. It was shot here in San Diego years ago. I guess the list goes on. Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh yeah.
Unsolved Mysteries was the one that actually was the only competitor in terms of being broadcast all throughout the world, next to Kung Fu Ghost. I've never had my voice in Russian or in Egyptian languages, Arab languages, and whatnot.
Technically speaking, we've not gotten that distribution yet. That's the pirate world.
Oh,
Arr.
I didn't get that memo.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently Kung Fu Ghost is doing a really great job of being pirated around the world, which I guess is a good thing. It means people want to see it. So they can't wait for the actual release. So much so that the Russians literally redubbed the movie.
Something about a girl kicking butt. I don't know. Really gets to them.
It's so funny. So you did a whole lot of acting for a long time there, but you did take some time off from acting, I guess.
I did. I got married and I had 4 kids. I don't recommend it. It's a tough scene to be a parent. I mean, it's not that it more teaches you more than you teach it. Parenting it's a lot of responsibility, and it has its it's great, and it has its great moments, and it's really tough and some other moments. And but now my youngest is now 18, moving on to college, and I think that's an amazing thing. It's like the other 3 older ones. They're in college right now, but just here nearby. My youngest chooses a college way out there, Atlanta, Georgia. And so that's like, what? You're going where? What's happening?
It's like a whole other world.
It is. And it's just hard to watch that happen. You're like, you're just 18, So it has its handful of responsibilities, but I'm back doing stuff. This was kind of a surprise for me. I started out as an acting coach. I did a lot of coaching for multiple other people. I was hired on as an acting coach, and then one of the cast members of Kung Fu Ghost did not show up or couldn't make it. And so, Jennifer, the lead, said, Rene, you got to do this for me. I have nobody else. You have to do this. And I'm like, I wasn't prepared at all. I mean, I read most of the script, and the rest of the bit, I just kind of like looked at you going, what's going on?
Yeah. I remember when Jennifer said that you were the acting coach,
Mhm.
and we met up to do our first kind of like run through some of the scenes. I was like, hey, you're not an actor, you're a singer. I know you.
Yeah.
Because I actually knew you from one of the other things that you do, which is your singing life and your singing career. Because we have a mutual friend who plays trumpet, and we kind of met through that. Yeah,
That's right, Paul Seaforth. I was giving him some advice to, hey, your next album should be Paul Seaforth as Seaforth and so on. So he didn't quite go for that. So yeah, Paul Seaforth, great guy to work with. He's he's got a recording studio, and I worked with him in his recording studio, and I learned so much out of just doing that and working with him on a few songs and couple of gigs. Terrific guy, amazing time. I work as a musician. It kind of ignited right as the pandemic was hitting. I've done some stuff before that. I was working. I was doing some stuff working with a jazz ensemble.
right.
Working with this and that. Just filling out the avenues and see where I could fit. And then I just kind of stepped out of there because it just wasn't working anymore, and I started doing stuff on my own. And then I found myself working with the drummer of Earth, Wind & Fire, Mr. John Paris. And as the pandemic struck, was March, 2019 or 20, whenever it was. I forgot what year that was.
March 2020. Same month we shot Kung Fu Ghost.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then August came around. That's when I was at Paula Casino with the drummer of Earth, Wind & Fire. And then another gig came up 2 months later at the same location. And then I started doing more things on my own band members and my own thing. There was nothing, a lot of people, a lot of artists, musicians included, and actors weren't doing anything. The pandemic shut down everything.
Yeah.
So luckily I got this thing, and it worked out great. I love music. I've been in music since I was in the 6th grade. I don't know, years ago. I was a trombone player. I started out as a trombone player.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I played in
my third nephew just started playing the trombone in the band.
Hey,
so
stick with it. It can be, it's habitual. It's like the best drug that's legal.
Right.
It's such a high. I still do gigs all throughout San Diego, and it's just like, it's kind of an instrument I can't put down.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. There's an opportunity, there's payment. I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
On your music side, is it jazz predominantly that you like to sing?
No, I've done some jazz. I do some here and there, mostly R&B, some old school, some ballads, some Latin,
Nice.
Spanish, sorta. Stuff like that. It's a big variety.
Well, that's very cool. So when we made the decision to turn you into the big bad of Kung Fu Ghost, which, by the way, what's your character's name? What's his background?
His name is Warren. Warren was a guy involved way back when. He didn't age. When he was also involved with the Star, the grandfather. You know, his name was always Grandpa. I ever forget what his name was in the character.
We never revealed the
Never.
name of Grandpa. It's always Grandpa.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
So he was
Lucky
involved.
you didn't age. You didn't have to sit in the makeup chair as long as I did every day.
I know they did a great job with your stuff. I mean, it was amazing. She did a really good job, and you know that one setting that I think the production was really lucky that you had your own cameras and your own equipment to help out on that, and that you brought it with you, and we shot that scene out there by the lake in the muddy water, and we're up to our ankles in mud. That was a lot of
the Vietnam scene. Yeah, and my buddy Daniel played the young man who got burned and was dying in my arms at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
What a trooper he was, right? Like,
yeah,
had
sure
Francia Cohen do all that, melted face makeup on the side of his face, and then he just laid in the mud for like an hour.
I know.
He actually fell asleep in my arms. I was like,
"Are we done yet? Is it break time? Where's the hamburgers at?"
Everybody's like, "Is Daniel okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, he's sleeping."
Yeah, with his facial asada.
Yeah, he's not dead. He's just napping.
Yeah. Union.
Yeah, that was a fun day going on location and shooting that and getting out because it was really kind of like the only like remote location shoot that our characters had. The rest of the time we spent mostly in that one house. So it was nice to kind of get out and do something different.
Yeah, very interesting, very cool.
What for you is the process of finding a character? Like how do you go about personifying a person who is not yourself? What is your process?
You kind of, it's reading the whole thing. As much as you read the whole script, you can also pick up more things going through each scene.
Right.
Each scene almost solidifies the character as it grows, and as the story comes to a pinnacle. You get to understand it deeper. You can't exactly make any decisions based on just reading the entire script. I know we were pressed for time and we didn't have to do a table read. That would have been better. We're just like, here, take it and run with it. And so I did what I could, but I think going through each scene and what the other characters were saying about Warren, the character I played, and the other, and who I was. I've worked with a lot of, I don't want to say jerks, and I can kind of take on their persona, and it's because I'm not a jerk. I've taken some de-jerk stuff. I'm not. It's hard for me to step into those shoes, but I kind of understand, and that's just part of getting into that. You're exposed to all kinds of people in this world, in this life. You just have to soak it in, and it comes to you, and you have to grab from that. Your experiences in life is what helps you as an actor as well.
Yeah. I know for me, the kind of emotional throughput between Grandpa's character and Warren, it became something deeper for me after we shot the scene in Vietnam. Where we kind of really got to explore that history between your character and my character and Noah Sargent's character of William. Even though I'd read the scene and I'd understood how the script kind of flowed, that emotional undercurrent of what that scene meant to all three of these characters didn't really hit me until we were standing in the mud and going through that together. And then after that, like the betrayal made way more sense to me. And I think that's the beauty of acting, right? Like is you get to read the script and you get one impression of the script, but then when you're on set, you get to see and feel the impression of that script from the other actors that you're interacting with, and then that continues to feed and inform how you view your own character in that situation and within the context of the whole film. So I love the process. It's always like every day is a new discovery of something else with your character, right? Like
Exactly. I can identify with what you just said. It's very astute and right to the point and well described. I'm formerly a chef. I was a chef for 13 years, and life kind of molds you and helps you,
yeah,
and everything you do and all your experiences, and in describing, reaching for characters and how I jump into a character and so forth, is somewhat the what you just described, and the way I cook. Let's say it's a chicken stock. Every ingredient, every element plays a part in the
mhm,
final production,
right,
and you can't put them in all at the same time. You put them in certain times for it to come to that fruition of a final um, flavor, if you will.
right, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's one of the things that I love about film and theater. For me, like in terms of art, they
mm-hmm.
are the most collaborative art forms I can think of, because you can't do a major production without a lot of people adding to the mix, right? You can
Yeah.
do a one-man play, but even a one-man play's still got sound designers and costume designers and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
lighting designers who bring their talents to that one man production, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a very, very rare thing in film or theater where a single person brings the vision to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love that collaboration. I love that ability to be influenced by the art and the passion of others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
I was super excited when I realized you were actually going to play Warren, because you do have, like I said, one of the kind of deeper acting histories amongst the San Diego community, and I was really looking forward to getting in there and having a chance to work with you. And then when it really came down to it, we didn't have a whole lot of scenes together.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I don't know what it was, but it felt like when I read the script, like there was a whole lot more interaction between us. And then in the day, we ended up only interacting on what, two shooting days,
Yeah.
three shooting
Two
days.
or three, something like
You
that.
were
Yeah.
there a number of days to kind of assist with acting coaching,
Mm-hmm.
but our actual interplay with one another on set ended up only being a couple of days. But again, really memorable days, especially that day in Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah. That was amazing. The effects, the everything. I was just it felt like you were there. Not you yourself, but your character's more involved with the setting. The smoke, the mud, the makeup really makes you feel. You cannot help but absorb what is happening, and that kind of shapes your character. That the unplanned things that we
Right.
can't
Yeah. Like
do.
the fact I couldn't get back up out of the mud.
Yeah,
Like,
we
Rene,
had
I'm
that
gonna need you
problem
to
too.
pick me up.
We needed a crowbar there.
I kept getting stuck, remember?
Yeah, yeah, I know that mud noise your foot gets into.
Well, and I had the bum knee at the time too, so like
That's
that
right.
that further complicated my ability to even battle that mud to get back up.
Oh,
Um, yeah, who knew that
yeah,
it would be such a difficult thing just to stand up?
yeah. Another factor is it's good to play this character because I've had uh, as someone that has a Hispanic background, um, you're offered a lot of parts, as a
Mhm.
Latino, not yourself, but myself. And it's hard to do because I'm not that. Latino.
Right.
Even though I'm Mexican, Mexican descent, I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska, of all places.
I was born in Pocatello, Idaho. I totally understand.
Pocatello, Idaho. So it's what's interesting is you are half Filipino,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you're playing this Asian character,
Yeah.
but there may be a conflict because the world has this dilemma of some people will accept that as you playing this character, and the other part of the world does not, because they're like, is this guy Asian or is he not? It's
Right.
always that question. I didn't have to play that dilemma per se in this character. I was just Warren.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody questioned I was Latino, or nobody questioned I was Hispanic. I remember auditioning for a Dr. Pepper commercial 20 years ago plus, and here I am walking into this audition room. I'm 6'2", and all these other guys are like way down there, and then they're like, "Sí, mijo, tomamos un Dr. Pepper," and I'm like, way up there, "Sí, papi, ¿por qué no?" And it just didn't go.
Yeah.
It didn't float, and I went through numerous Hispanic auditions that just didn't work.
Right.
And I was glad to finally get a part where that wasn't a focus. I played policemen before, a lot of policemen, always law enforcement. I think I've had about 6 roles as a policeman, and then this one comes around. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So it's good to step out of that, and be, who I already was as someone here in America, and not have to worry about the dilemma of being Hispanic, or the world is going to look at, okay, well, is this guy Latino? Is he, is he Latino enough? Is he, that kind of dilemma. And I just wanted to get away from that, and it's good to get away from that.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because I had the complete opposite experience on this film.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours of the release of Kung Fu Ghost, coping with a lot of internet folks, claiming that I was a white guy in yellow face, and
and it's insulting.
Yeah, it was incredibly painful because it is something we talked about in the casting, and I said to Jennifer, I was like, I am half white. She says, yeah, but you're also half Filipino, so you're Asian. Like, I was like, okay, if you're comfortable with that, then I'm comfortable too, and we'll roll forward, but I know in the back of my mind it was always there, because representation is important to me, as a person of color, and as a person who's half white, because I have in fact experienced both sides of the racism coin.
Oh yeah. Me too.
And it's been a difficult thing to come to terms with over my life, and I know a lot of people who've seen Kung Fu Ghost, and they watched me in Panic at Park, which we also shot just before pandemic. Like, I was starting to move into more acting before pandemic hit, and I've gotten a lot of people coming up to me, especially at like the San Diego Film Awards just last week, saying, you're really natural as an actor. I had no idea that you could act. I always thought you were a behind the scenes kind of guy.
Like, we're just acting.
And I was like, well, I love acting. I minored in acting in college, and I minored in acting in college, not because I didn't want to be a acting major, but because I didn't see myself in film. I didn't see myself on stage. I'm half white, but I'm not white, like it's distinctively not white, and to be fair, my Filipino heritage is a bit Hispanic as well, so I do have a very Hispanic kind of look, and I just never saw myself in any of the roles that I could audition for stage or for film, and I just kind of shied away from going down that path for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think consciously about it. It just happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just avoided acting because I didn't see myself. And then I started doing these roles and saying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm mid 40s now, pushing 50. Like, if I want to act, I'm gonna act. Like, to hell with
Yeah.
anybody else's thoughts, and like, so I
Right.
started going for roles. And when pandemic hit and Disney Plus put out Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting with my, at the time, 10-year-old nephew, and we were watching Hamilton, and he was just enamored with that stage production.
Yeah.
And I remember when uh the gentleman who played George Washington in that started singing, history has its eyes on you. And like, I really identified with him in that movie, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't figure out why, until my nephew turns to me at one point and says, Uncle Bubba, he looks like you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if I shave my head and whatnot, like, we have pretty similar look, and at the time I
Yeah.
had a shaved head, so it was really easy for my nephew to make the connection. And I was like, hot damn,
Uh-huh.
there I am, I'm on
Yeah.
stage, I can see that. I
Uh-huh.
could see a younger me playing that role.
Yeah.
How important is it that I didn't see that for myself when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't see other people who looked like me in those sorts of roles playing a character like George Washington.
True.
That's a very white character to play. and
Yeah.
and it's one of the things I loved about Hamilton. It was just kind of like, to hell with the fact that they're all white,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to put good actors in the parts, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
People
And
who
they were very
who
good.
can perform, people who can bring gravitas. And in the end, like, as much as I love the idea of representation and making sure that people see themselves on screen, I also kind of feel like some characters could just be played by anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I get Grandpa is a very Asian character in a very Asian style film, so he should be Asian, which is why I had those conversations with Jen ahead of time. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, getting to your point about Warren, I think it was great that Warren was not a, you know, average looking white dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the contrast of you being so tall and dark skinned next to Noah's, paler, almost Twilight-esque look,
Yeah. Twilight
you
is.
know.
Yeah.
And then myself, like, I just felt like between the three of us we had so much representation on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lovely.
Yeah.
and
It was a
and
good
in the
mix.
end I was very proud of it. And then to have the movie come out and to wake up the next morning to a bunch of just frantic messages from the producers and from Jen,
Mm-hmm.
you know asking me if I could go on my IMDb and just mention the fact that I'm half Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why do I have to do that?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
but then on the other hand, I'm like, I get it. And it
It,
sucks that I get it.
yeah. It's such a weird
um
economy. People could ask me, okay, well, it's like it's a cross between the dilemma of, are you a actor Hispanic or Hispanic actor? Which one? And its society doesn't really have to do that. It's just, I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska.
yeah,
I'm an American. I bring with me a lot of culture that has formed my life.
yeah,
Speaking Spanish. Working with other actors. The last job I had, I was at Terriers. I was a policeman from Tijuana, man, and I
right,
was had to speak with an accent like this and talk to these guys. I don't know what you're talking about, but I had to, bring in the accent. And I was a Tijuana cop in Terriers,
right,
guest starring on that and that stuff. And that they bought because I brought in the accent. You could tell I was taller than the other actors, and that really wasn't a dilemma. They just made it work.
Right.
You know, I like to do more cop roles, but I just want to be myself. Dude I'm from everywhere. I'm Lincoln, Nebraska. I'll have no memory of it because we never lived there. But I want to be more, you know, I can take on the American roles, as you mentioned. You know, Hamilton can be played by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even people of color can see, hey, person can be that person. This person can be that person. You know, it doesn't have to be a white guy.
Yeah.
And you know, and no offense to that culture either. I have a lot of white friends just like you do, and they kind of wonder that too. You know, hey Rene, do is there any other roles that you could play? And hey, I'm waiting, I'm searching, I'm always looking, I'm always got my eye out to do something. Um, I was once what was uh, not 18 Wheels of Justice. It was another show shot here in San Diego, and it was directed by um, the guy who Rocky was boxing. Um,
Apollo Creed.
Apollo, yeah. Carl Weathers.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was
Who's been
directing.
great on The Mandalorian, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. And funny, I haven't seen that yet. Don't tell anyone. So, so he was directing a scene where I was an AA counselor, and I was at a meeting and I was directing that. That was a good role. Now I can't find the footage anywhere.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But it was great to meet him, and it
Yeah.
was great to be in that role. And I really look forward to doing that stuff like that, where I'm more. There's a lot of me in that role.
Yeah.
I've been in counselor settings. I've been in settings where you have to help people in their dilemma and treat it with kid hands and gingerly just kind of move the issue forward so they can come to the resolution. I live for that. I love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people when you're acting, like, it's about coming from a place of truth for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how you make an audience believe in your character. Mm-hmm. And I was watching Kung Fu Ghost, and I thought, where did I come from in terms of like a place of truth for myself for Kung Fu Ghost, for Grandpa, who's so wildly different from myself. But I think for me, it like came down to doing like the real work on it. Like I shaved my head, so I lived in that look every day for a month and a half.
Yeah.
That's terrific. And I got to experience how regular people out in the world like looked at me differently with that hairdo, and then for me, like finding that point of truth was about paying homage to things that I love, right? So I mentioned in a kid's first interview recently, that Grandpa's a kind of conglomeration of a whole bunch of different influences. So there's a bit of my mom, right? A bit of my mom, that kind of forceful parental entity, and then there's a bit of Pat Morita from Karate Kid, which was, Karate Kid was one of my all-time favorite movies as a child. I watched it hundreds of times. And I didn't watch it for Daniel LaRusso. I watched it because I loved Pat Morita. Again, in the representation stuff, I could see a man who looked like my uncles and reminded me of family members in this character in that film, and I just ate up everything about Mr. Miyagi growing up, and it did open my eyes to a lot of Japanese culture and the kind of tragedies of World War II, which has become a massive passion in my mind to learn about World War II and all the things that happened there. And I got all that from watching Pat Morita on Karate Kid, and that's the power of film, right? Like it's the power of seeing yourself on screen. I get it. And so I was really just in a lot of ways paying homage to Pat Morita. And then, Pai Mei in Kill Bill, of course, with the the pulling on the beard and that sort of stuff. And then there's a little bit of Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal in there in a character called Agra. And if you look on the poster art, you see the one eye down and the one eye up. That got more pronounced as the shoot went along, as I became more and more Muppet-like as we went. But there's definitely a bit of that character Agra from that movie, who's a mystic and always seems to know a bit more about things going on than the rest of the characters around her. Like, I felt like that was Grandpa too. So I drew from a whole lot of different places.
Yeah.
And in that way, it came from places of truth for me, right? Like, these are things I care about. These are things I love. And I brought that stuff to the screen. I brought the love of those things to the screen. And I hope that audiences see it too.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Yeah, I was on site as an acting coach and helping all the other actors and giving some direction and so forth. I never gave you any kind of direction because you were doing what you were doing was spectacular. I'm like, just let him go with it. He's doing
I remember asking you at one point, I was like, you got any tips there, Rene? You got any pointers for me? You're like, no, man, you just do what you're doing.
Yeah. It worked. It worked. You were doing fabulous. God, let this guy go. He's doing fine.
I had a lot of fun with the character, especially once I found the voice and once I got in the gi and everything. It was hard to get out of him sometimes while we were shooting.
Oh yeah, and you see you at Carl's Jr. I want the
give me Western cheeseburger.
No Western.
It's really tough to do since I was always in that look,
Yeah.
Especially once we started painting the gray in, because then it just didn't come out. Like, driving home, picking up dinner, like, I looked like Grandpa. Like,
exactly.
The looks I got from people everywhere I went was really interesting. But so what all you got going on now, Rene? Are you still out there looking for new acting jobs? Has things kind of picked up since pandemic has kind of started to move to endemic?
Endemic. Well, yeah, it's cut back.
Are you out singing? I know I've seen posts that you're out singing and doing the band thing.
Yes, I have a gig this Sunday, Labor Day weekend, because we're off on Monday. There's a lot of stuff, restaurants that are really, pushing the party on Sunday night too.
Right.
So I have a gig then, and I have a full band at September 10th at the Somerset Winery in Temecula.
Oh, nice.
Full band.
Yeah, very cool. Maybe I can come guest at one of your performances sometime, sing a song with you.
Yeah.
We've been talking about singing together for a while, but we haven't quite made it work yet.
Yeah, let's come over to my garage and we can fire up a few tunes and say, okay, let's work on that one, make it sound like flawless. That's another thing as a musician, as an artist, there's an element of perfectionism.
Oh yeah.
And I can't put that down because, in orchestra and in cooking, there are no mistakes.
Right.
You have to, from its inception, when you put it in a pan and so forth, you finish it and put it on the plate, it has to look perfect.
Yeah.
Perfection is something, a world of which we've kind of lived in, and we almost look for it in other areas of our life, and it makes life more difficult. Or not just myself, but others around me, friends, family that don't have that perfection mentality.
Yeah.
And, there's even other musicians that don't exactly have that perfection mentality, and then you just want to look at them like, I can't believe you played that note.
Yeah. I totally get. Yeah, you want to practice and rehearse and make sure you got it down before you take it public. When we did the Jumpstart a Life telethon a number of years back, there was an opportunity for me to sing with one of our celebrity guests who came in, and she was super excited about it. And in the end, I backed out of it because I didn't feel comfortable since I hadn't sang publicly in ages,
Mhm.
and B, I hadn't sang anything with her, and she's a recording she actually has albums and everything out, and
Mhm.
I was like, I don't feel like I'm in a position where I'm ready to jump in with you like that. Like, if
Mhm.
we could rehearse ahead of time, that'd be great. But she only had the one day to come in, so next time, maybe.
Yeah, I know that
But
feeling.
yeah, let's get together. Let's rehearse
Absolutely.
and jam a little bit, and
Y yeah.
at the very least, have a good time,
Oh, that's the main point, man. It's the garage. The garage is always a great time.
right? That was my mom's rehearsal space all growing up, man. Like
Yeah,
we did marathon 4-day long karaoke jam sessions in the garage. It's
that's
like the
it.
Filipino way, but
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
yeah, my mom was a singer too. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I do remember. Yeah,
she
a
did
good one, I
the
can
she
imagine.
did the lounge thing,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So every time I think of my mom, which is
Oh,
always nice.
man, beautiful. Keep that with you.
I will. Well, Rene, thank you for sitting and chatting with me, and thank you for being awesome in Kung Fu Ghost.
Oh, thank you.
It was an independent film to the nth degree, right? Like,
Yeah.
not enough time, not enough money, rush our way through it, get it done. And we got it done because of professionals like yourself who showed up ready to play, and I'm just honored that I had the chance to share the screen with you.
Well, I couldn't have said it better to say the same thing back to you. It's amazing that I get to share the screen with you too, and you did some fantastic work there. Uh,
Thanks.
I look forward to our next gig where we play cops.
Yeah, let's do it. In the true vein of the modern filmmaker, we just need to write something for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, we should. That'll be
So,
good.
well, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of collaboration when the podcast is done. We'll keep talking
We must.
and singing.
Every service, call my service. We'll do brunch.
All right. Well, Rene Fernandez, thank you very much for joining us on the IntelleXual Podcast. For all of you who've come all the way through the episode, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're joining us on the YouTube channel, please like and subscribe everything. Rene, is there social medias that people can follow you on?
Yes, you can go to Rene Fernandez Music on Facebook, Rene Fernandez 967 on Instagram, and you can check out my website at renefernandezmusic.com.
Awesome. And of course, you can find The IntelleXual at The IntelleXual on pretty much every platform that's out there. And I am at David S. Dawson on pretty much all of the majority of platforms, except for Facebook, where I am the real David S. Dawson. And until next time, folks, this is the IntelleXual Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you all again on the next episode.